Brace yourselves, folks, because Boris Johnson has just unleashed a scorching critique of Labour's immigration policy, and he's holding nothing back. In a fiery interview on GB News, the former Prime Minister went on a tear, slamming Labour's recent decision to scrap the Rwanda migration scheme, a move he claims will have disastrous consequences for Britain's borders and taxpayers. According to Johnson, Labour's backtrack on Rwanda is more than just a policy reversal. It's a ridiculous and hypocritical betrayal of the British people, and he didn't stop there. In a jaw-dropping moment, Johnson even accused Labour of kowtowing to elitist humanitarian sensibilities that don't align with the nation's best interests. But what has really got everyone talking? Johnson's stinging comments on Labour's apparent willingness to cut a similar migration deal with Albania. The former PM questioned Labour's motives and launched into a passionate defence of the original policy, leaving GB News viewers and the entire political arena in shock.
But I think that's, look at it. What the hell? It's just ridiculous. The point about to get back to the point about immigration, I'm a mongrel made up of all sorts of immigrants. But the point about immigration is that people will wear it, they'll understand it, they'll accept it if they feel it's controlled. And the problem with the illegals, particularly people, the people who come so visibly across the channel in the dinghies, coracles and so on, is that they undermine the people who are coming here legally. And they seem to be getting an unfair advantage. They seem to be...
Well, it seems to be treated better than some British citizens, to be honest with you.
And all that impression causes understandable resentment. And so whether it's the United States or this country, it's something that really, really, for the sake of democracy, needs to be fixed. And I'll tell you something else, Patrick.
OK.
Sorry if I'm just going on, but...
It's all right.
It's one of the reasons Trump won, right?
Yeah.
You cannot just tell people who care or who worry about this issue that they're garbage or that they're espousing fascist views.
Johnson didn't hold back as he laid out what he saw as the Rwanda policy's core benefit, a strong deterrent against illegal migration. If people know they're going to be sent to Rwanda instead of staying in Britain, they think twice, Johnson explained. According to him, the scheme was designed to send a clear message. Those who enter Britain illegally won't be accommodated indefinitely at taxpayer expense. Instead, they'll be relocated to Rwanda for processing, which he argued would make Britain a far less attractive target for illegal crossings. But Johnson didn't stop at defending the Rwanda policy. He went straight for Labour's jugular, pointing to what he called an obvious inconsistency in their approach. They're scrapping a perfectly workable deal with Rwanda, he argued, and now they're supposedly pursuing a deal with Albania. It's absurd. What on earth makes Albania more acceptable? Johnson's words were dripping with incredulity, and his frustration was clear. As he continued, his criticism only intensified, suggesting Labour was playing politics over principles and bending to the will of critics who, in his words, don't understand the reality on the ground. If that wasn't enough, Johnson went even further, alleging that Labour's actions were essentially a betrayal of the British public. This decision isn't just policy, it's a message to the world, he claimed. Labour's basically telling people that they're willing to let Britain become an easy target for illegal migration. His scorn was palpable, and as his words reverberated across the political landscape, it became clear that this wasn't just a passing comment. This was Boris Johnson declaring political war on Labour's immigration stance. Public reaction to Johnson's comments was swift and explosive. Within hours, social media was buzzing with supporters rallying behind Johnson, echoing his disbelief and anger. Finally, someone's calling Labour out, one viewer posted, while another described the policy reversal as a catastrophe for Britain. On the streets and in the halls of Parliament, Johnson's words were sparking fresh debates, with supporters of the Rwanda policy accusing Labour of betraying their promises to protect Britain's borders. But Labour wasn't sitting quietly on the sidelines. Starmer's team quickly fired back, branding Johnson's comments as fear-mongering and insisting that the Rwanda scheme was always a controversial, unworkable solution to a complex issue. They argued that the policy risked Britain's international reputation and defended their pursuit of a new migration agreement with Albania, emphasising the human rights concerns raised by Rwanda's track record. However, their response only added fuel to Johnson's fiery critique. And here's where things get even more scandalous. Several inside sources revealed that Labour's decision to scrap the Rwanda policy had actually caused rifts within the party. Some Labour MPs reportedly warned that the move would alienate voters in constituencies deeply concerned about immigration control. One source claimed that senior Labour officials were worried about a backlash, but were ultimately overruled by the party's leadership, who believed a new deal with Albania would placate critics without the ethical concerns raised by Rwanda. Adding another layer to the drama, Johnson seized on these rumours and accused Labour of being hopelessly inconsistent in their approach to immigration. "They're so desperate to avoid looking tough," he declared, "that they'll throw away any effective policy just to save face." Johnson pointed to recent deals made by other European countries, such as Italy's agreement with Albania and the Netherlands' talks with Uganda, as proof that Labour's decision to scrap Rwanda was, in his words, based on optics, not reality. The plot thickened as reports surfaced, suggesting Labour's Albanian deal might not even be a done deal. Insiders hinted that negotiations with Albania could drag on for months, with no guarantee of success. If Labour fails to secure an alternative, Johnson warned, the immigration situation could spiral out of control. "This isn't just a political misstep," he cautioned, "it's a national security risk." His words painted a stark picture of the potential consequences, with critics fearing that Labour's indecision could lead to a surge in illegal crossings. Meanwhile, Conservative MPs have taken Johnson's comments and run with them, seizing the opportunity to hammer Labour for what they describe as dangerously soft immigration policies. Tory heavyweights lined up to echo Johnson's sentiment, calling Starmer's scrapping of the Rwanda scheme a disaster waiting to happen. And while Labour tried to counter the narrative by accusing the Tories of sensationalism, the backlash only seemed to grow louder. Yet, despite the intense criticism, Starmer's team has remained defiant, maintaining that their policies are based on human rights and compassion. They defended the decision to abandon the Rwanda scheme as an ethical stand, claiming that Labour's approach aims to treat asylum seekers with dignity. But Johnson's supporters weren't buying it. Online, hashtags like #Keep Rwanda Policy and #Labour. Week on Borders began trending, with critics demanding that Labour rethink their approach. In a final, dramatic twist, Johnson delivered a closing statement on GB News that many say could define the immigration debate in the upcoming election. "Labour can dress it up however they want," he declared, "but at the end of the day, they've sold out on securing our borders. The British people won't forget that. This isn't just another policy dispute, this is shaping up to be a full-scale showdown." As the fallout from Johnson's comments continues to reverberate, political insiders are watching closely. Will Labour manage to weather the storm, or will Johnson's words come back to haunt them in the next election?